Hey y'all, let's go there.
Ew. We're gonna set the stage here. I'm gonna do the
Awesome.
witchy shit that you taught me how to do.
It's amazing.
Hmm.
We're totally leaving this in.
Okay. Look at how. Who needs a flame that
That's a
big?
big ass flame, yeah.
So much for climate change.
Leave it to me to take you off course.
Oh yeah, it's good shit.
That is good shit. How's it smell?
So good.
Yeah, I love Palo Santo.
I don't think I encountered Palo Santo smell until I was like 40.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or at least I didn't know what it was. I probably encountered it, but just didn't know what it was.
Mhm.
Um,
Okay.
okay. Danielle Applestone.
Hi.
Hi. So you're part of our first workshop episode. You and I were
Ooh.
talking. Yeah, we're going to do workshop. We're going to workshop together.
Okay.
But you and I were talking, and you were struggling with a career decision. And you said, maybe we should take it to the podcast. And I said, hell yeah. Let's talk it out, sister. Let's see what you're dealing with. But before we get into that, I want to give our audience a sense for who you are and what you've accomplished in your life, which is just amazing. I'm in awe of you. And so why don't you tell us, like, how would you describe yourself if you're at a cocktail party? How do you describe yourself when somebody gives you the dreaded "what do you do" question?
What do I do? I think that is an ever evolving answer today. So I'll answer it for today. What do I do? Is I draw the truth out of people and I help people make hard decisions. It's kind of the summary of what I've always done in my career. But I also make the hard decision. I was talking with my mom earlier this morning, and she's like, sometimes you make these decisions and it doesn't make sense to everybody around you, and then years later they're like, I'm glad you did that, or like, I get it now. So I think that that's kind of indicative of kind of what I'm doing going into situations where the answer's right in front of everybody's face, but nobody wants to say what it is and nobody wants to make the call. And I basically just essentially make it safe for people to make the call that they know they need to make.
So
So
what was
I'm a consultant.
so what was the earliest decision that you made in your life that you can recall that people didn't quite get when you were making it, but now are like, that makes sense?
Oh, I think there was a lot of small ones, leaving home, leaving my hometown and going to a math and science school in high school. But I think the biggest one that really only made sense in hindsight was I was in grad school in Texas, had a baby. I showed up to grad school 6 months pregnant, and I ended up getting a PhD in material science, which was fucking hard, like with a kid. And I was running a software business at the time on the side.
Not just
And
any grad school, University of Texas, which
yeah,
their
yeah,
engineering program's
Austin.
amazing.
Right. Yeah. Studying under, the best battery scientists in the world. And the decision that I made was to completely abandon material science and run a company. So run a very small robotics company. And at the time it wasn't even a company, it was a government grant. Like, a friend of mine had gotten this government grant and he needed somebody to run it. And then so I turned down job offers and I went and I ran this government grant, and I never like quote used my PhD. So I think that's probably the first thing where people will be like, I can't believe that you went through grad school. I quit twice also. So grad school was not like a straight line for me. And after having quit twice, making it through, emerging, as a single mom of a 6-year-old at that point in time, and then just saying, "Nah, I'm not gonna do this.
You
I'm
say
gonna do
that.
other
You
things."
say that, but at the same time, the university recognized you as one of their distinguished alumni. So clearly they feel like they
Oh,
can they can stake a claim on you. So they must feel like you're using it in some capacity.
that's so funny you went to that
I
dinner with
was with
me.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cute. Yeah, I guess. I guess. I guess it does make sense in hindsight, but I think that was a hard decision too, because I went out on a like 2-month road trip with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, and it was a big decision because I said, "Hey, I'm leaving Austin. I don't know where I'm going. Are you coming with me? If not, we're breaking up." And we went out on a road trip together for 2 months, and we would just go to major cities, and I would fly back to wherever I had a job interview. And um, at the end of it, I had to write songs and stuff too about it. I wrote some songs about. I wrote the song called "Ladder to the Moon," um, and it was about building a ladder to the moon, and then you just like climb back down the ladder. You like don't ever even like get to the moon, which I felt was like the decision to build yourself up to a place, like a pinnacle of like, now I've got this PhD in material science and batteries. I'm going to do batteries at Tesla or wherever. And then just being like, I'm actually just going to climb back down. And that song was the thing that I sang to myself to be like, all right, this is important.
Mhm.
This is the decision to just go in a totally different direction, even though I had spent so much time kind of achieving the thing that I thought I wanted.
How did you know that it was time to go in a different direction?
Mm, when I pictured it, when I pictured actually going through with it just
Like
didn't feel right.
like going
Like,
through with it, like working at Tesla or something like that?
yeah, yeah. I kept putting myself in the situation. Like I would go to the facility and I would picture my life there, and I was just like, something doesn't feel right about this. And I would go to other places and have interviews and be on the East Coast. I'm like, this just doesn't feel right. I couldn't really explain it. It wasn't like an intellectual thing, because intellectually it was like, this is definitely the path. You should definitely do this. This is, money in a future. And yeah, but it just didn't feel right.
And where did you end up? Where did it put you?
Well, I ended up at a place called Other Lab, which was like an R&D, like an independent R&D organization in San Francisco, and they had gotten a government grant to build desktop size manufacturing equipment for the classroom. It's basically like to teach American students how to do manufacturing using computers basically. And we oh yeah, I was just running a project that was government funded project, which I had never done before. I'd never like led a group of people. It was my software business that I co-founded in 2003 that I had run throughout grad school. That was just 2 people, sometimes a third contractor. So it wasn't like a big organization that I had run or anything. So
And what happened to that business, by the way? The software business, remind me.
oh, I ran it, and then I me and the co-founder split up romantically, and then, eventually it was a service for eBay users, and so, eBay users that bid on things, and
Mhm.
so as eBay grew and then got smaller in terms of their auction part of their business. Our business grew and then got smaller too. And so eventually I just sold my interest in the business to my business partner. And then eventually, he just sort of wound it down when it was not making as much money as it cost to run.
Yeah.
But that
Yeah.
was 13 years.
13 years ago. Okay, so it was the software business. Then you ran a team at this R&D organization.
Yeah.
And was it from there that you got into 3D printing?
Yeah, that desktop sized manufacturing equipment that we designed for the government was sort of like 3D printing, but kind of like the analog of it because we were
Hmm.
3D milling. So
Okay.
taking a block of aluminum and cutting shapes in it
Hmm.
using a small desktop device.
Okay. And you were the CEO of that company
Yeah.
eventually? So did it spin out from that entity?
hmm Yeah, it was a government project. We lost funding. So in 2023, 20 in 2013, there was like government sequestration, and they were basically like, hey, DARPA doesn't need to be funding education projects. And so they cut our funding, which it was supposed to be $8 million over 3 years to develop this product and get it into 1,000 high schools. But then the funding went away. And so we we kind of bootstrapped it, kind of like made it exist, ran a Kickstarter campaign, took on contract jobs for Motorola, kind of made it work, and then eventually I raised venture capital funding for that business. It turned into a just a commercial manufacturing and robotics company.
And that was Bantam, right?
Yeah, yeah. Once we sold it, we rebranded it as Bantam Tools. Originally, it was Other Machine Company. Was
Yeah. And then eventually Bantam Tools. And then from Bantam, you actually became really passionate, I recall, about helping people fill the unfilled manufacturing jobs around our country. And there was
yeah.
a certain subset of the population that you began to focus on that was very near and dear to me because I grew up putting myself through school in the service industry and saw all these amazingly talented people that would basically get stuck in the service industry and beholden to it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Daughters of Rosie and what you did there?
Yeah, well, when I was running the robotics company, we had a manufacturing facility, and I just hired non-traditional people, people who had photography degrees, but who were handy, people who were working as an acupuncturist, but who were handy, or people who were uh, hosts or hostesses at restaurants, but who were handy. And I realized that there was this whole group of people who did not know that they had the skills to be successful in manufacturing as technicians or repair people. And when I sold that business, I thought, I've seen all the reports that say that we have a manufacturing labor shortage. I think it's false. I think we have plenty of people out there who would love a job where they can build something and then at the end of the day be proud of the thing that they built, and a job with growth potential, a job that feels like it's going somewhere and like they are growing in their skills. And so I formed Daughters of Rosie essentially to find these people on Facebook, get them excited about manufacturing jobs, entry level manufacturing jobs, and help them talk about their skills in a way that would reframe those skills such that a manufacturer could understand, oh, okay, this person does have hands-on skills that are relevant to this job. The people had all this, it's like the people are out there, they have all the skills, they just don't know how to talk about the skills and frame them in a way that a manufacturer is going to understand. And so our job was really just closing that information gap and finding the people and putting them in front of the manufacturers and getting them hired.
Yeah. And you worked with some amazing brands. I mean, at one point you were talking to BMW. What are some of the other brands that you help find talent for and train people for?
Well, a lot of the companies that we worked with were smaller.
Hmm.
There were folks that people didn't know, like this company Aclima was one, Proterra at the time they were making electric buses, and there's company Saildrone who was manufacturing these large autonomous sailing vessels. So they were companies that had a need for hands-on talent, but not big brands. And companies like Michelin were interested in what we were doing, but ultimately the pandemic put a kibosh on everything.
Mm.
We we had closed our second round of VC funding and 10 days before the shutdown. And then 6 weeks after the shutdown, all of our contracts with businesses were canceled because they were just not hiring anyone.
Yeah.
And they, in fact, laid off their HR teams. And also, then the talent pool dried up.
Yeah.
Talent wasn't looking for new jobs. They were like, we need to stay put and stay healthy. And so, 6 months into the pandemic, I made the tough decision to let everyone go. And then it was pretty clear that it was going to be a year or two to get things, before the economy was going to recover and we were going to have a vaccine and everything. So I shut down the business and gave the money back to the investors rather than
Yeah.
waiting it out,
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 years that it was going to be required.
I know that was hard for you, but that was the way you handled yourself during that time was super impressive to me. But I think what impressed me the most was the hard pivot you made coming out of it. Not just from a career standpoint, but from a mindset standpoint. Um,
Yeah.
you're laughing. Why are you laughing?
Well, I went on this silent retreat. So there was two things. I had a coach at the time, which was super helpful because it was very hard. Daughters of Rosie was the first company that I had formed that was actually my idea and something that I felt very connected to personally. The idea that we could get people into jobs with growth potential and paths for people to actually build wealth was so compelling to me that shutting it down was really a blow. And it was also my third startup, and being a startup CEO is exhausting. So
Yeah.
it was like, I am tired, my heart is broken, and my coach said I should go on a silent retreat, just by myself, to just sort my shit out. But I was afraid of the dark. And so
Oh, I forgot
I
that.
I didn't want to be in some cabin by myself in the dark. So I first had to become not afraid of the dark, which is a fascinating process. So let's just go into it. In case anybody is listening who is afraid of the dark, this is
You have a
my
hack.
pass it on. Okay, so have been afraid of the dark forever, and so I rented this one-bedroom apartment, creaky old Victorian. It was upper floor. There was a like very old guy, single guy living below me. Way too much furniture, just packed in there, just kind of creaky and old. Uh, Perfect for scaring yourself.
What
So
made you so let's hold on a second. What made you pick this place for your silent
that
retreat?
that place picked me.
Wow.
It
Okay.
was available, right, and when I needed it, it was the right price point, and so I rented it and lived there. And it was terrifying to live by myself. It was so dark, and I just was leaning into it. And so my coach said, "All right, your fear of the dark is based upon stuck emotion, some emotion that you don't want to feel. There's something." And so he said, for 1 month, pick an emotion each week that you're going to feel. And when you're at home and you feel that kind of creeping feeling, it's nighttime and you're like trying to lay there and you feel like, the fear is looming in. He's like, just lean into it. Pick the emotion for the week and like lean into it every time you feel it, and sort of notice what happens. So the first one was anger. First week was anger. So anytime I would feel that tension or the nighttime or the like lonely or whatever, I feel like the ghosties, uh, I would be like, F you, ghosts, like, you ain't got nothing on me. It was just like, like very angry. And I found that it didn't work. It didn't take it away. And so a week of anger, I felt anger. And then the next one was just feel the fear. Like, shake, tremble, like actually like be on, as if on a movie screen, be afraid, be like, look the part, feel the fear, as best as you can, fake it till you make it. And also, it just didn't do it. I would just cower under my blanket anytime I felt it for that whole week, and nothing didn't really change the nature of it. Third week was sadness. Just get sad at it. Like, get
So wait a
sad.
minute. You were
uh,
silent for 3 weeks?
No, no, no. This was the pre-work. I
Oh,
had
the
to first
pre-work. Okay, got it, got
get
it, got it. Okay.
get unafraid of the dark so I could go do a
Got
silent.
it, got it. Okay.
Because I didn't wanna do I didn't wanna do a silent retreat, like, with a big group of people. I was
Got
like,
it.
"I need to be silent. I need to be in the woods. I need to be, like, in my core." Because I kinda grew up in a rural place, and so my silence is in the middle of trees. That's
Got
where
it.
the silence
Got
is.
it. Okay,
Um
so week 3.
Yeah, yeah. So week 3, get sad at it. So I would be like, "Oh, I'm so sad, like, don't kill me," at the it's really true, at the ghosties. And that also didn't work. And I was feeling like, it's been 3 weeks.
Mhm.
I have not made any headway. And so he said, "Okay, well, week 4 is helplessness."
Okay.
So beginning of week 4, I'm in there, I'm washing dishes. It's like late at night, I'm washing dishes. And this was like a classic way to trigger fear for me. It's like, it's late, my back is turned to the rest of the house. I'm washing dishes. I kind of like hear a creak or something and I feel it kind of coming up on me. And I realized that I had a visualization of this ghost or whatever was a man with a knife going to kill me. That was my fear. That was
Ooh.
the sort of thing I always pictured. Um, and so I'm at there and I'm washing the dishes and I feel it. I feel him, creeping up on me with a knife. And I turn around and I just put my hands down and I just said, "Do it. Take take me out. Just do it." Helplessness. That was week 4. Just, so be it. You're gonna get me. You've been coming at me for so long. You're just take me. And I can't, in that moment, that fear, it just won't, it just vaporized. It was like calm, clean again. Nothing. And I was like, what?
It's so fascinating how it's
Oh,
just the
yeah.
resistance of it more than the
So
actual thing itself.
what came next was the flood of grief. I just sort of collapsed onto the floor and I started crying and I was like, I have been afraid of the dark for 35, 40 years. How many times have I felt afraid? So many, so much, so many times, like not going on camping trips by myself or not doing this, or like, just like not being with myself in the dark or just having to run from the car to my house and turn on the light, all of these behaviors. And it was just so much grief of so much energy that went into it, and I was like, "That's fucking sad." And so I was just, like, crying on a pool on the floor, and then I got up and I felt just incredible joy. Um, yeah. So that was how I became first unafraid of the dark, and then I could go on the silent retreat, and it was true, like, I went out there in the woods, in a cabin, by myself, did not talk with anyone for an entire week, and it was hard, and we can get into that story too. But anyway, the the getting afraid unafraid of the dark was super valuable because it also showed me, like, sometimes, like, when you're ready, the switch just flips.
Yeah.
When you are done with the thing, when you're done with it and you're like, "I'm gonna do whatever it takes. I'm gonna unravel this," uh, and you let it, it happens quite fast, at least in my
Some
experience.
somebody once said to me, "It will let go of you when you let go of it,"
Mhm.
which I think is
Yep.
so true.
Yeah. And it was kind of the thing about the fear of the dark and the helplessness was really real. I did not ever want to feel helpless. And it was not just in the kind of afraid of the dark zone, it was like anywhere in life. I didn't want to feel helpless. Helplessness was death. So I could see how that was really related. And actually, on the silent retreat, there was um, the thing that I wrote on the wall was resistance is futile. I wrote it all over. That was, on advice that I had gotten. Put it on posters, put it, on the entrance to the cabin, above the ceiling where you sleep. Resistance is futile. Resistance is futile. And that was a pointer to the surrender.
What I think is super fascinating is I witnessed you before and after,
Mm.
and I witnessed the evolution of you, which was quite powerful. And actually, it made me seek out the coach that you had because I saw the change in you and one other friend was so significant. I was like, okay, I'll have what those women are having. So
Yeah.
I sought out the same coach. So people are going to hear some of the same themes in terms of what you're saying and the things that I've experienced too. The silent
Yeah.
retreat is an example. But I think the other thing that I witnessed in you was before we get into this pivot that you made from a career standpoint is you made a big pivot mentally from a scarcity mindset to an abundance mindset and or a poverty mindset to an abundance mindset. And this was a conversation that you and I have been having in the background, which was a sensitive topic for you. You actually got upset with me when I first brought it up. And I don't think I brought it up. I think it was a conversation where I was just talking about your worth,
Yeah.
which really upset you. And so what do you think that was about? What was the poverty mindset about, and how did you make that leap into abundance mindset?
Well, part of it was, I mean, if you and your ancestors and, like your family basically isn't a wealthy family and had times of poverty and everything, it's sort of like, even if you're okay, we grew up in rural Arkansas, but it wasn't like we were like poor, like not the poorest of poor. So I feel like a little bit of it was just kind of holdover,
Mhm.
but also feeling like it takes a lot to change that situation. It's like a big to leap out of that is a big deal. And also, I think that I had had this survival mechanism, which was telling myself that I was like, something's not good enough, or you have to work harder, or you're unworthy is actually like, for some people like me, is a motivator. Like
Mhm.
you have the voice in your head that says, never enough, never enough, never enough, never enough, which is the scarcity voice.
Mhm.
And it bleeds over into your earning potential and things like that, because it's like you're never enough. And you're never enough is an analogy to, or is related to, this small amount of compensation that you get for this work is fine. You're never enough. So this amount is fine. You're never enough. So this amount is fine. And I think that those are tied together. In order to really understand your worth and command the kind of value from your work, you have to understand the power of your work, and you have to really feel internally worthy. And when someone points at that voice and says you're wrong, actually, Danielle, you are worthy, it's it's like that voice gets scared and is like, this is how we got this far in the first place. And I think my reaction to you and you poking at that was like, no, what will I be without this voice of self, abuse?
Mutilation or
You're
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So I had to do a bunch of work, and sometimes, through a lot of friends, actually, and the support of really close friends, and doing some workshops, and it's a messy mess of trying to figure out how to love yourself, which is, at the end of the day, that's what it was. It's like self-worth, self-love, and leads to really a set of boundaries, like an internal set of boundaries with, that you start having a conversation with yourself about what will and won't work for you. And that's the main thing that I got out of that silent retreat, as it was so difficult to do. Like one of the worst slash best weeks of my life.
Say more about that. Describe it. Describe it to us. I'd like to hear about your experience.
Yeah. Okay. So I went up to the Philo, California, which is sort of nestled in the redwoods. Found this little so crazy. There's this little cabin, off grid cabin. Well, was there electricity? There was electricity. But it's amazing. I could walk down to the river from this cabin. There was a little swimming, I'm from the South and from rural South. So swimming in a creek is my jam. Just like find a deep hole in a creek. So there was that. And so I would do 3 hours of walking meditation, sit down, do more meditation. It was like, I had never meditated, but it was 8 hours of meditation and silence. So that is really, really uncomfortable. You get so uncomfortable, and everything about your mind gets loud and your body gets loud, and you're just like, I don't want this. I profoundly do not want this. But you're committed. You're like, I am going to do this. And then you sort of have a breakthrough and you're like, day 1 is amazing. Day 2 is horrible. Day 3 is amazing. Days 4 and 5, you're like, I swear to God, like, I can't do this anymore. And then day 6, you're like, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel, but like, why is this so hard? And I remember day 6 there's so many things that were tremendously valuable. One was, this was around 4th of July weekend also. And there was this turkey that would come by the cabin every day at dusk. And I was like, oh, there's the turkey. It was like the only exciting thing
To
all
look forward to.
look forward to was this turkey. And then on the 4th of July, the turkey didn't come. And I was so fucking angry.
The turkey
I
had
was like,
plans.
where is the turkey? What happened? Who got the turkey? Where is this turkey? And I'm sitting there on my porch, like, pissed. And then I thought, what are you doing? Why are you mad at this turkey? And then it was this thing about like, oh, like, I don't even know what the meta thing was, but I just had to laugh. And I wrote a poem and it was just like, day 1, the turkey came. Day 2, the turkey came. Day 4, the turkey didn't come. And it's like, and how come why didn't I ever think of that? Like, why didn't I ever consider that the turkey wouldn't come or something like that? And I got to see that, like, I'm like, this is not real. This anger in here is not like real. I'm pissed at this turkey. No, you're not. It's just anger. You're feeling the anger, and that's like a pointer to it. And so then I had and it got really bad after that. It was like very intense. And I remember laying in bed and I was just like, I was resisting. I was like, resistance is futile. Like, just stop resisting. And I was like, what can I do? And then I felt like a part of my ankle or something, or my leg. It sort of like, this is going to sound so weird. It was like it was trying to say something to me. And I was just like, what are you trying to say? Ankle. And the ankle said, you never listened to me. And I thought, what is that? And I just started crying. And then I felt good. And I was like, ooh, there's something here. So then I laid there, and then I started getting angry, and like I was like holding everything, and I felt a thing in my stomach, and I was like, what do you want to say? And my stomach said, why don't you take care of me? And it was like there was places in my body that had something to say. And the whole, and then it was, again, it was like a bunch of crying and then euphoria and then a slow descent in, like, to the tension of a place and my shoulder saying things. And it was this crazy conversation I had with my body. Um and then eventually I fell asleep and I woke up the next day and I just, like, pulled out my journal and I wrote things down. And it was like, I here's what matters to me. One is I'm not going to do anything I don't enjoy anymore. I'm done. I'm done doing shit I don't like. And so it was like, enjoy my one wild and precious life, which is like a
Mm.
nod to my favorite Mary
Mhm.
Oliver poem, which is such a great piece of art. There was that. One was, I want to use my gifts. And the third one was work with people I love. And that was it. I'm like, that's it. That's all
Wow.
that matters. I, like, got in my car, I drove home. It was amazing. And now I don't even remember how we got onto the story.
Actually, it's perfect because
But
that is exactly what you did coming out of it. That is what drove your pivot.
that's right. Yeah, and that was the self-love and the reality of, oh, yes, that's right. Full circle. It it was the my wants matter. My non-negotiables are the non-negotiables. And I think until you know what your non-negotiables are in life, you're gonna do a lot of stuff that isn't right for you. And for a dollar amount, talking about worth and poverty mindset and things that don't work for you either. And I'm speaking about this from a place of intense privilege. Like, I got educational privilege, I got tall privilege, I got whatever privilege. Like, there's privilege, white privilege, um,
Musically talented, charming. We can keep
musical
going.
privilege.
Yeah.
um, and h- however, for me, this was a very real thing. Like, knowing what my non-negotiables were related to I am worthy of having non-negotiables, and then just saying, like, that's it. And I'm going to translate that in this next phase of my career. I'm translating that into action. And it has largely been defined what I do for whom and for how much.
Yeah. And just to describe how I've witnessed it and keep me honest here, Danielle, on the other side of that silent retreat, what I witnessed is you earning more money than you ever thought possible.
Oh, yeah.
You actually put a goal out there and blew the doors off of it. You said, and I hope you don't mind me saying this to our audience, we can
No,
always
that's
cut it
fine.
out, but you were like, I want to work fewer hours. I'm not going to work more than X amount of hours a week, like 20 hours a week or whatever it was. I'm going to work from Puerto Rico because I'm going to be there for my son.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to work with amazing people on amazing projects. And the floodgates opened. I mean, business started to come at you from everywhere. And what I also observed is some of the smartest people in our ecosystem were coming to you for help. And it was just for me like it was so validating for me to see it. And I've never had the pleasure of saying I told you so, but I'm going to say it because it was so awesome to witness what I knew was possible for you.
Yeah.
Do you think I'm describing it accurately in terms of what happened afterwards?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's how it felt.
yeah. And you're doing it on your terms, 1,000%.
It
Which
takes,
brings us. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead,
Well,
Danielle.
it's a leap.
Yeah,
It's definitely a leap to
yeah.
do that.
And I personally have not been able to really accomplish that leap yet. So it's like super hard to do. But I've been so impressed by it, and you've made it look easy. You really
Well,
have.
one key thing was I stopped believing I had to do it all on my own. Like,
Mm.
my relationship with you and with Stacy like and just so many people saying, you can do this, you have us, call us. And really believing that was true, trusting those relationships were strong enough for people to it's like just believing that I had a community of people was really what helped me leap. This was like, not this size of leap would be a very hard leap to do on your own.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And we have the good fortune of having some amazing people in our lives. You being
Yeah.
one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, so that brings us up to current moment. So now you've basically achieved everything you set out to achieve and more. I've watched you do it. You've established that you're worth more than you even thought possible. You've got this thriving business, and now you're faced with a career decision. Tell me about it. What's going on?
Yeah. I I realized a couple things. One one is I'm not limited in my ability to make enough money to support my family, and that's great. And I feel the safety of that. Like I actually feel secure in that. And I hear the siren song of, but what about more? But what about more? But what about more? What about billions? Like, and I never really thought that I would hear that, but I hear it and I feel that pull. Like, what if this number is just bigger? What if the bank account's larger? And that is just, it's like deceptive and sexy, and it's like there's a hunger for it, and it is a bottomless pit. So I feel that and I have access to it. And that's one way I could go. There's also feeling the the fact that I think that we could achieve energy abundance in our lifetime. And I think there's good reasons to do that. One is I think that peace comes from abundance. And if we are fighting over resources, we're going to be fighting over resources. And whether it's electricity or, water or clean air or good land that we can grow shit on, we need to unlock the energy piece because everything else flows from that. And so I feel a deep calling to solve this, or to participate in the achievement of that if it's possible. That's, and so working with climate tech companies and industrial energy storage companies and things, which is what I do through my consulting business. But I do see that I could probably play more of a role. Like right now, I go into other people's companies, I help them work better, I help them refine their business strategy, I help them say no to the shit that's a distraction so that they can focus on the real path. And that's how I have been contributing to our energy abundant future. And I, but I believe that I could do more. I could build my own company, or maybe I could do more. Actually, it's an open question, but that's another path. And then the other
Real
thing
quick,
that
Danielle, what would do
yeah.
more mean? What do you mean when you say do more? Do more than just the HR team optimization stuff? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it would be find a niche, find something that is really valuable that isn't happening and make it happen.
Okay.
So it could be forming a company and building a team. And I like having a team. I love being a startup CEO. It is super fun. And
Mhm.
I miss that piece. And there's a creative element, which I think is that's sort of the third sort of third pillar or direction is mm, it's music. Music has been the thread of creative expression throughout my whole life. It's the way that I can connect with anybody anywhere, and it's the even the group where we met. The first thing that I did with that group in some ways was like play music, share music, bring us together. There's a theme there, and there's a glue that I it's like sounds so egotistical to say this in some ways, but it's like there's a glue that singing and music and holding space for music and expression has created within our group. That so I see that that is an element of what I bring.
Mhm.
And I wonder about bringing that to the world at large. So what would happen if I saying to people? What would happen if I brought big groups of people together and helped them connect with each other and feel their feelings and care about this planet that we're supposed to be saving? Uh, so that's the third element, and I have been putting more effort into it. We're making an album, and it'll come out next year, and I've been thinking about what maybe that's it. Maybe I do that. Uh,
Okay. So let me repeat back what I heard.
yeah,
So you're feeling the pull to earn more and you see the potential to earn millions.
that's about retirement. I do not
Okay.
have retirement, and I have been believing that you should have some retirement.
Okay. So we're gonna put that one under
That's
financial
Yeah.
independence. So
Financial independence or retirement. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So there's financial independence, which for me is not a decision. It's just there's wisdom in that, right? That's a
Oh, yeah.
call. That's a little voice, the whisper that might become a roar. And then, but there's really two things that you're talking about here, which is, do I lean in to my PhD, quite frankly, and do something in the world of clean energy,
Mhm.
or do I become a musician, like really focus on being an artist full time? Is that the question at
Yeah.
hand? Is that what you're wrestling with?
I think it's, do I help other people with their businesses? Do I build my own in the clean energy space? Or do I really lean into, yeah, music?
And are they all mutually exclusive? Is it an either or? Is it binary? Because I've been watching you do all of those things as long as I've known you.
Mm,
Is there a desire to focus?
yeah, I think I have. Music has been a hobby, and it's been the thing that takes the back burner. Like, for example, I had a conversation with one of my clients today, and he's like, I think maybe what I'd like to do with you is bring you on full time and point you at every gnarly problem we have. And I'm like, oh, that sounds fun. But I know that if I do that, the idea of like going on tour this spring or in the summer is not gonna happen because I have to like make specific time for it. And there could be portions of things that happen, but music has never been central focus of my time. I've just never had the time. I mean, and some of it comes from like, how the hell do you get to out of Arkansas? Uh, step one, get out of Arkansas. Oh, you had a kid at 24? Okay. Now do that thing. Okay, you yeah, like you decided you want to do startups. Okay, well, they don't pay very well. It's like all of these decisions have meant that music has been like a fuel in the background for like emotional growth and things and connecting with other people and community, but I have not moved things to the side and made space for it to come over and be a focus. Uh, and I'm feeling like when I think about not doing it, I feel sad.
Okay. I think you've just answered your question. Okay. Let me just say this. We've been in our heads this whole conversation.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you do best is somatics. So I'm going to take a moment. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. I want you to take a deep 4-count breath. Hold it in for 4 counts and then let it out. And then I want you to take a moment to feel in your body, just like on your silent retreat, whatever part of your body is trying to talk to you, my love. I see that tear. Do you have it? Can you tell where it is?
Yeah.
How does it feel in your body?
It's in the back of my mouth.
Oh,
Yeah.
how big is it?
Like a golf ball sized. Let me see what it wants to say. It says, I don't know.
It's okay. Don't rush it.
No, I think that's the message. I think the point is there's no way to know. Mm, what's going
No.
to happen?
Yeah, that was gonna be my next question. No way to know what's gonna happen. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And what does that golf ball want?
To get in the hole.
Side note, audience, Danielle does play golf.
Just get, just put me in the hole.
What does that mean?
Let me do what I'm supposed to do. It's like a voice that says, let me do what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah,
Yeah.
resistance is futile. What are you resisting?
Moving through the world without a plan.
Uh,
Just,
yeah,
what?
I've never seen you do that.
Not have a plan?
No, I've never seen you. Yeah, I've never seen you move through the world without a plan. What makes you think that you wouldn't have a plan if you were a musician?
Well, I guess maybe it's it could be just an illusion of that any of this has been my plan. Uh, yeah, like
Yeah.
I think there is something that you said earlier about the either or
Mhm.
that that there's that I can't that if I do the thing that I love, I'll end up old and poor.
Mhm.
uh or that with music in general, there's just this story of like hardly anybody ever makes it, but I'm like, what does making it even mean? Like, I don't need to be famous. uh I don't I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing it other than just to do it, to express, and just because it feels so good. And um
I one time heard somebody say you should be doing the thing that you can't not do. You know what I'm saying? Like the thing that you can't resist. And I
yeah,
feel that way about you in music.
yeah.
What would it look like to let yourself get this hole in one? What would it
Well,
look
yeah,
like?
that's fun. I hadn't thought about it as being a hole in one, but also like you can take several shots. I'm like,
Yeah.
am I on the green? does feel like I'm on the green and all I have to do is spit it into the hole.
Yeah. So what would it look like if you were to design this? If you were to design this like in your ideal state, in the same way that you designed this company that you're running now, if you were to design your life in its ideal state, what would you design? If there were no constraints, no limitations.
One of the things that has really been compelling me lately is seeing the power of playing music and playing music with kids, or playing music with families that don't think that they're musical, and helping people get off the page and into the instrument and into the sensation of making sound. And just how, I watched a friend of mine's kid. We were, I go to Arkansas for a friends and family reunion every year, and the focus is playing music because a lot of my family's friends are musical, and I'm musical, and husband's musical and stuff. And there's this kid who has grown up every year of his life. He's gone to, it's Camp Clear Fork is the name of it. Every year he's gone to Clear Fork. He's the kid of one of the people I went to the math and science school in Arkansas with, and he's playing the clarinet. And he's like, can you jam with the clarinet? And I'm like, hell yeah, you can jam. And he's like, well, I only know a few notes. We're like, that's plenty. You can jam with one note if you have to. And I said, just go get it. We'll figure it out. And, me and my husband, and you could watch this kid first. We're playing chords and he's playing his notes, na, 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 and then he, it was this moment where he just like skipped a note in the scale, and then he played a note twice, and then he just kind of closed his eyes and like leaned back, and he just started just like picking out notes here or there, and you could almost watch it physically happening, where he's like feeling it, feeling the communication that we're having on this other plane, which is the musical plane, beyond words. And that feeling, I'm like, I remember having that feeling. I know what that's like. And it's such a powerful gift. And it took 20 minutes. And I think about that as part of it. Like I visualize basically, get this sounds so weird. Getting in a van and driving around the country and just like helping people feel that feeling.
Hmm. What would
And
it look like if you were to design that? How long would you do it? How long would you give yourself to do it? What's happening?
I don't think I'd stop.
And what's wrong with that? What are the tears about?
I have no idea. Just sort of
Mm,
feels like, yeah, when you ask that, it's like, how long would you do it? It just said forever. I think there's a fear for sure of what would I be giving up in exchange for that. And I also know, though, that even if you think it's forever now, it's like forever until you get to the next moment like this in my life.
Yeah.
It's forever until another transition point,
Yeah.
which
Which
makes it a little easier to handle, where it's like, "Is it forever, forever? Could I
yeah,
go
you're
back?"
pretty prolific. I can't imagine that you wouldn't have many iterations. But you know, uh, we have a therapist that says that there's grief in decision making because saying yes to something means saying no to something else.
Yeah.
But I also wonder what it would look like for you to stare into the darkness as if this were the man with the knife and say to it, just take me.
It's funny how it just feels like it doesn't make any sense.
Tell me about it. I'm hosting a fucking podcast.
It's like, "All right, so you do what now?" I travel around the country and I try to find
It's okay, babe. Take your time.
it's like I try to find the kid who is me,
Yeah.
the queer kid, the weird kid, and be like, "If you have music, you can get out of here because you can connect with people. You can have a place for all the feelings. You can tap into like the core essence of who you are, which is all you really need to like escape something. It's like your rocket ship because it doesn't steer you wrong."
I love that. The core of who you are is like your rocket ship.
Yeah. And I think music is like a cheat code.
It's a hack.
It can help you find it in yourself and can help you find it in others. And I think that I don't know what I would have done without music. Like, yeah, this feels like going around to all the towns and finding all of the me's who are there, who like want want something. They want to, they can connect to this part of themselves.
Yeah. Someone sent something to me recently that said, you've grown into the adult you wish you had as a child.
Yeah.
You know?
There were definitely people who like came into my life in just very brief moments and just there was this one guy who's like, I don't even know who he was or what his name was or anyway. He was like the temporary boyfriend of a friend of my mom's friend. And we were at this like Halloween party or something at her house and he
How
came
old
in
were you?
probably about 9. And he came in and I was like playing my flute kind of to the side. I had just gotten this flute, I think, but I'm like, does this timeline add up? I was playing, oh, you know what it was? I was playing one of their kids' flutes. I was not playing my own flute. That's why I was so
Mhm.
young. This was before I got a flute. I was playing their flute from like they were in the band, like beginner band. So I'm playing their flute, and this guy came up to me. I remember it was like in their kitchen. I'm sort of like at the table, just kind of playing. And there's like a bunch of other people playing music. I'm not playing with them in the group, but I'm playing along with them on this flute because I did not know how to play the flute. Uh, and he goes, "This isn't for you. This place, these people, this is not for you. Just keep going." I never
Damn.
saw that guy again.
He's a guide. Forget the boyfriend of the
Yeah,
friend's
man.
friend.
And
He was a guide.
I was like, this human sees me and just like got me right away. And he'd been around all day, like hanging out as we were like setting up for this party, but then just chose to just be like a message from the outside. And it is funny that I was playing music at that moment.
By the way, he was
Must
right.
Yeah. He was right. Yeah. It was not a great place for somebody like me to grow up. So having someone from not there come there and say, this place isn't for you, wherever you want to go in life, you can just keep going. Um,
Well, you say, Danielle, that what you're talking about doesn't make sense, but based on your story and everything you've done, it makes total sense to me that your heart would be drawn to doing this. And I've heard you talk about the desire to be a musician full time before, but never with this clarity of purpose, with this mission at the heart, which is quite powerful. So now that you've actually said it out loud, how are you feeling about it?
Feels like there's something about just being. Like, you don't really have to do anything. You can just go be in these places. And it's obvious. You're just sort of like magnetic. You're like, whatever magnet I am is going to attract the other little magnets. It's actually opposite magnetic as a material scientist.
Yeah, do explain the actual magnets do not
Like,
attract.
well, okay, there's a density of electrons flowing close to the speed of light, and anyway, what I mean is, in this case, it's opposite magnets where sames attract.
Well, babe, I'm curious to see where this goes. And you're touching on something that came up in an earlier episode. One of our guests, Taylor Johnson, said, "Purpose is not what you do, it's who you are,"
Uh-huh.
which in essence I think is what you just said. You just need to be yourself and everything's going to unfold.
Yeah, I think going and being is pretty much it.
Yeah.
Go and be out there. And there is part of me that's like, I don't want to be attacked because a lot of the being that happened as a kid was like, super bullied, super excluded, super awful. Like being as a kid sucked in where I was, and so to go out and be now as a strong, powerful person that like isn't beholden to what anybody thinks of me. I still feel like, I could be attacked, but I'm also like, I don't know. I've been attacked before.
You've stood in the dark before.
Yeah. Yeah. Come and get me.
Come and get me. All right, babe. Well, I am grateful to you for being so vulnerable and open-hearted with us today. I'm going to ask you for a follow-up.
Okay.
Once the album's out,
Great. Oh gosh.
we're going to
Okay.
follow up and see where you are. on wrestling with this question, as they say in Arkansas.
Yeah, thanks so much for the conversation. I feel like, oh God, I just said all that stuff. But I also, little vulnerability hangover, but I feel pretty good. And it helped me think about things in a new way. Like I haven't actually said all these things out loud to other people yet either. Like not like this. So good. Thanks for the combo. Thanks
I'm
for the
proud of you.
workshop.
I'm proud of you. Yeah, I can't wait to see where it goes. I'm excited.
Thank you.
All right, babe. I love you.
I love you too.
Thank you for coming on and trusting me.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, well, I wish I was a bug with all the colors and spikes, so you would leave me alone and I wouldn't have to fight. Oh, is this talking always so hard? If I was a fish, I'd have a big old mouth and I would show you my teeth so you would know what I'm about. Oh, why are these feelings always so large? And every time I go to take a step, it feels so small, but it cuts so deep. It's like I'm walking on a big knife blade, but someday it'll cut me in half. Oh, well, I wish I was a bug with all them spikes and colors, so you would know what I'm about. And you stay away and give me space until I'd worked it all out.
Thank y'all for listening today. If you're so inclined, please follow, subscribe, download, share, all of the things so that we can keep going. We appreciate your support so much. If you're interested in learning more, go to thecoeffect.co.